to host this book presentation. It's not the first one, but I still have to learn some, so to say, tricks in Zoom. So welcome everyone to the book presentation. We are today presenting a book titled Classical Mechanics, a Professor-Student Collaboration. My name is Tullio Basaglia. I'm head of the library within the Scientific Information Service at CERN. So I'm in charge of the classical library services, among others also our bookshop and acquisitions, subscriptions, etc., of the classical services of the library. And my pleasure is today, first, I can introduce Mario Campanelli, Professor of Physics. Are you teaching, what's the name of your course, Mario, actually?
Well, it used to be classical mechanics last year.
Okay.
But this year I'm teaching machine learning stuff.
Ah, okay. You moved to machine learning. Okay, that's the well.
Plus problem classes, plus postgraduate courses, plus we have a little bit of something. Yeah. A little bit of various teaching items.
Yeah. So please, Mario, tell us something about this book. What is special about this book? How did it come about? What about this collaboration?
Yeah, actually, as I said, the students had the initiative. So at some point I was contacted by the students, and these are students who were attending the first edition of the course. It was, I think 3 years ago. And then they said, okay, listen, we would like to have a summer project, and as a summer project, we'd like to write a book about the course, and we'd like to have the write book in collaboration with you. And the argument for that is that books are normally written from the professor's point of view, and then the professor hasn't been a student for many years, and after many years of research, teaching, whatever, he may consider easy some parts that are difficult for the students, or difficult some parts, and spend a lot of time on parts that for the students are very complicated. Are trivial or straightforward. So that's the point, is that why doesn't the teachers who write textbook, why don't they listen to the students, or why don't they let the students write the book the way they understand things, the way they can communicate things to their peers or to the younger colleagues? And that's how it started. That's how the whole thing started. So I had some lecture notes, and these lecture notes were not only mine, but were also taken from previous lectures. I did improve, clean up, and modify the lecture notes while preparing the course. But then the students started from these lecture notes. Then they added some problems, a lot of problems, because actually the difficult part of this exam is solving problems. And so they added problems with solutions, some problems without solutions. And then in the end, I think they improved a lot the graphical presentations, because many of the sketches were hand-drawn and clearly not very good for publication. So in the end, we have something that is a nice book, which is seen from the point of view of the students, which is something pretty new. I never heard of anything like this, but of course with the supervision of a more experienced guy, that in this case it's me, who sort of cleaned up a little bit, but not very much. I mean, the book was already in very good state when the students handed it up to me.
Okay, thank you very much, Mario. So now is the time for the students to introduce themselves. Please, Antonio. Unmute yourself, of course. Please remember.
Thank you. So, hi everyone. Thank you for joining. My name is Antonio, and I'm a year 4 MSci Mathematics and Physics student at UCL. I will pass I'll talk about some parts of the book and the idea later on, and I'll pass the word on to
Camilla.
Camilla.
Please, Camilla.
So hello, everyone. I graduated this year from UCL BSc in Physics, and I'm now going through the struggles of an MSc in Physics at Cambridge. So yeah, hello, and thank you for coming.
Okay. Next, Enrico.
Hello, my name is Enrico, and I'm here in London as well. I'm doing now a master's physics course at Imperial, and I finished theoretical physics at UCL just last year.
Thank you. Lodovico.
Hi everyone,
I also graduated from UCL last year, and now I'm studying the MSc in Mathematical and Theoretical Physics at Oxford.
Thank you. Sheila?
Hello, thank you all for joining. I'm Sheila, and I'm currently a fourth year MSci Mathematics and Physics student at UCL.
Thank you. Last but not least, Tayyab.
Hi, my name is Mohammed Shabbir, and I'm currently studying for my master's in theoretical physics at UCL. And I'm writing my master's thesis on the biomedical applications of electromagnetism, focusing on using magnetic induction tomography.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So now it's the time for Mario to present, to give an overview of the topics of the book, the content. How is this book organized? Please.
So I can certainly do that, right? But why don't the students do that?
Please.
Okay.
Yeah,
The floor is yours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I'm happy to do it. So the book has got different chapters, and the first one is mathematical preliminaries. We'll explain a bit more about why we chose to put it as a first chapter. But I would like at this point perhaps to quote one of the very first sentences of the mathematical preliminaries chapter, which is a sentence from basically Galileo, who said that if he were to start his studies again, he would perhaps follow the advice of Plato and start from the mathematics. So that's why we kind of decided to open up with this, and just to give a mathematical view of the different topics. And then it goes on. It starts from what can be considered the axioms of classical mechanics, which are Newton's laws of motions, and then all the main first year undergraduate topics are kind of covered. There's more kind of content in the appendix, as there is, I think, some part about index notation. There is some part about Lagrangian mechanics, which are not, let's say, essential first year topics, but are for those who are more enthusiastic about the subject and would like to find out more. I'm going to briefly give just a kind of rough story about how the idea came about. So we are all physics students, right? And 4 of us are Italian. So when we are not doing physics, you might very well find us with a cup of coffee in our hands. And this is why we were having all a coffee together, all together. And it was the beginning of our second year. And we basically started thinking, okay, so what's the most difficult subject that we had in first year? And that was classical mechanics, because it's quite tough especially because you have to try to understand some sort of new formalism that perhaps you might have not encountered when you were at high school. So what we basically did is we had some pretty decent LaTeX skills, I would say, that allowed us to make the drawings and put the text all together. And we basically thought of contacting Professor Campanelli. And Mario was very happy about this idea. He didn't hesitate for a second, and he basically said, guys, I really would like for you to start this project and make it published. However, we thought, well, even if we don't get to the publication stage, we will still have a very good set of notes that the next cohorts of first years will be able to use. And but Mario is very determined, as we kind of all were, in bringing this project forward. And he basically contacted IOP, the Institute of Physics, and he basically made it such that we could actually have it published with a very nice and good press, and very well known as well.
Okay, thanks a lot. Enrico, it's supposed that you're supposed to say something about the audience of this book. Who is this book for?
Yes, well, the main target audience, it's first year students, and yeah, supposedly, I mean, hopefully it with the people present here that are participating to the call will agree with me. The book is intended to start a smooth introduction to classical mechanics, because it is true that it's as Antonio was saying, it is a big jump from high school. I remember one of the first lectures, actually, Professor Mario saying, yeah, for this course, you only need a dozen of equations. I don't remember if it was 12 or 15. And then I was looking at the notes, and at the end, they were like, the number next to the equation was like 400 or something. I said, is that true? How is that possible? And so yeah, the intent is to, especially with the mathematical preliminaries at the beginning, is to teach how to use these equations and actually get everything else. But it's not just first-year students, the target of this book.
So, sorry, do you agree now that you just need 10, maximum 15 equations for classical mechanics and all the rest can be derived?
Yeah, no, exactly. Now I know, yeah. But yeah, so who else is this book for? I'd say for also second-year students that are starting courses on differential equations, fluid dynamics, and also some Lagrangian mechanics. We do have, there are appendices in the book that are introductory for these topics as well. And, but I would say that also for A-level students, like year 11, year 12 students in the UK and all over the world who are doing A-levels, the book could be a great introduction, especially for the maths formality that is presented at the beginning of the book. And finally, I would also say that the textbook would be a nice and refreshing read also for more experienced physicists and engineers. Because, I mean, I think we all realize that we're just in our masters, but we probably have realized already how abstract you can go. And it is indeed amazing going to abstract physics and ideas. And but at the same time, it's nice to come back and see what made us fall in love with the subject and using that real life intuition to solve problems. So yeah, if more experienced physicists would like to try to solve the problems with without some abstract maths ideas, that would be a nice read as well.
Okay, thanks, Enrico. Lodovico, why should I buy this book? How does it differ from other books on the subject? Please.
Sure. So first of all, don't be tricked by the image. We are clearly not trying to compare our book to the Principia Mathematica.
Oh, you're better for sure.
Definitely. So I would say, as Professor Campanelli was saying before, clearly the main difference between our book and other books is that word that you were mentioning, the collaboration. So clearly in other books, what's missing is the point of view of the student. A professor has studied many years, has worked many years on the topic. A lot of these things that he teaches are taken for granted, are found trivial, a word not liked by students. So what we try to do is to make to explain our concepts as clearly as possible, focusing on those topics that we particularly know students struggle with. And since when we wrote this book, it was the summer of our second year, so after the end of our second year. So it had been only 1 year since we had taken our final classical mechanics exam, and we really had fresh in our memories those struggles and those challenges, and this guided us throughout the book. However, we do have also, of course, the point of view of the professor, because Professor Campanelli edited our book and went through the whole text, making sure that there were no mistakes and that everything was at the appropriate depth required. So we have a strong guarantee of the quality of this textbook. Mm-hmm. Secondly, we've worked very hardly on the layout of the book. So we've made sure that all definitions, theorems, etc. Were kept in boxes and with different colors, so that it is immediately visible to the student what we're talking about. And we also included a lot of diagrams and figures and tables. We really wanted to make this as clear as possible. Mm-hmm. Thirdly, we had plenty of examples and exercises, also taken from past papers, so that students really prepare on challenging problems and on what they are supposed to be able to know how to do at the end of the course. And finally, we have included some clear solutions for most exercises at the end of the book, because we strongly believe that to learn, it is absolutely necessary to have solutions to problems. Problems must be attempted on your own without looking at the solutions, but at the end of the day, you need to know if what you've done is right, and if not, you need to understand how to do it better.
Okay, Lodovico, thanks a lot. Tayyab, it's your turn. Is it accessible to people from different educational backgrounds? I suppose the answer is yes.
Yeah. So according to official statistics, the undergraduate body at UCL is represented by 150 plus nationalities, and about 53% of these students come from outside the UK. The same is true for most high-grade universities all around the world. This means that these students have all been trained at different levels to various education backgrounds, and although their grades for their school living exams allow them entry to these universities, not all of these students have the same mathematical skills for performing rigorous calculations. As an example, the Spanish system introduces students to matrices, but not differential equations. And on the other hand, students from the Italian background are very well versed in differential equations, but have no idea how to work with matrices. In fact, when we were in first year, which seems like so long ago now, we were told that many courses were designed to bring everyone to the same level and ensure that everyone had the basic knowledge to survive the degree and endure the harder courses to come in the following years. With this in mind, our team decided to make this a recurring point to focus on during the writing of the book. We wanted to make the book as accessible as possible to people from as many backgrounds as possible. We wanted to ensure that nobody was left behind, and that no matter your background, you were able to enjoy you were able to feel the joy of understanding Newtonian mechanics. So some students joining the course would have taken multiple mechanics courses with their A-level mathematics and further mathematics, while others may have very little experience with the subject, leading to difficulties in grasping concepts and knowing the tricks to solving certain types of questions. This was tackled in the book by introducing topics from first concepts and providing a rigorous mathematical background to solving problems related to these topics. Our team itself is comprised of people from various educational backgrounds. As a group, we have experience in the Italian, Spanish, British, as well as the Pakistani and Kuwaiti education systems. And while many educational systems place an emphasis on problem solving, others don't. And this leads to extra difficulties for the students when they approach a subject like classic mechanics, where problem solving and thinking outside the box are required skills. Our book introduces these skills, and the problems included in the book hone these skills for people at all skill levels. During the process of writing the book, we merged all our ideologies and experience from these backgrounds. Every chapter was written by one of us and then was supervised and revised by two others, as well as the final editing by Professor Campanelli, which ensured that every chapter had the same language throughout and that no knowledge or physics concepts are taken for granted. I believe this makes our book extremely accessible to people from all backgrounds.
Thanks a lot, Tayyab. Thanks a lot. Sheila, you're supposed to talk about the pedagogical approach. Please, the floor is yours.
First, I would like to emphasize that we don't take for granted any sort of preliminary, so we even go through definition of vector, dot product, and all those things which are necessary for physics. Also, I would like to walk you through our thought process regarding the structure of the book. So first of all, we decided that we needed to include all the steps for every single derivation and every single explanation, because sometimes we find that lecturers or even ourselves now think that a lot of steps that maybe a new undergraduate doesn't see quite obvious, and we wanted to prevent them not understanding something because of those tiny steps that they might not see straight away. Moreover, after each section, we included different types of exercises so that they could test their knowledge. For instance, we have theoretical exercises so that they can check that they know the content itself, whilst the practical exercises check if they can apply those concepts. We have two levels of exercises. So first we have practical exercises that check if you can directly apply those concepts, while we also have more difficult exercises that have something to them, that practice more your problem solving skills or reasoning. And of course, there's solutions to all of these exercises. They're also detailed so that you can not only check if your solution is right, but also where you went wrong and go from there and try to learn from the solution. So as a whole, I think that the book is a guide that follows a teach-test approach that is very helpful for classical mechanics. But not only that, it's something that students can apply to other subjects that they will encounter in the future. Like they will go on to do quantum mechanics and other stuff that really does need this approach, and that some students might not have learned to do themselves at school. So, yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot, Sheila. Now, writing a book is not enough. I mean, you have to test it also, no? It's a tool, after all. So, Camilla, what about the test of this book? How does it work?
Yeah, so after having spent the whole of last summer working on our book, we were really eager to put it into action and try testing out some of our knowledge, some of the exercises, and the material from the book. So we decided to run a physics taster course at UCL during the months of October and November. So the course was aimed at A-level students. So we had a group of about 20 A-level students coming in every week for a session. And the aim was to introduce them to some initial concepts in university level classical mechanics. So we ran the course in 6 sessions, and we modeled it on sort of what the experience that the students would get if they went to university problem-solving tutorials. So we sort of practiced with some of the material from the book and had some introduction to initial concepts where we taught them some of the material, simplified obviously to be applicable to A-level classical mechanics and physics, which they might then use to take their exams as well. Then we split up the students into groups and we gave them some simple exercises taken from the book to sort of solve together, and we followed them ourselves as instructors to see if our solutions were correct and if they went through the whole process properly. So thanks to this, not only we got a lot of fun and some very interesting teaching experience, we also got some very good feedback on the material in the book and how to probably improve it if we were to do a second edition of the book. Yeah, so we have lots of ideas there, hopefully, to develop.
Very good, thank you. Antonio, so you're supposed also to say a bit about testing the book. Please, what's your experience?
So I'm helping out Professor Sergei Yurchenko, who's the new lecturer for FAS 0010 Classical Mechanics at UCL, the course that Professor Campanelli used to teach. And what I'm experiencing is like really the first year that the book is actually a recommended textbook for the course. So I'm actually gaining kind of first-hand feedback of what using the book for a student might be like. And so far, I think we're doing pretty well because I've received some good feedback from the students. Some of them have found the level of details in the book very, very good. And I'm also seeing how everybody's very keen on the teach-test approach that Sheila mentioned earlier while talking about the pedagogical approach of the book, which is basically what used to kind of like be like when we were doing, like many of our courses at UCL or in general, there seems to be that you're given a problem sheet just after you've covered a bunch of stuff. Whilst having the opportunity to practice straight away problems you can do with the content you've learned, even after just one lecture, I think is a great opportunity to kind of strengthen the knowledge that you've acquired. So I'm seeing this kind of process going on at the moment. And I do believe that, of course, there's always some room for improvement. Perhaps there might be sometimes small typos or maybe some things we might kind of try to explain in another way in a potential new edition of the book. But I think that so far, seeing it taught is actually, I'm very proud of it. And I think, we all did a very good job, because overall people who are using it are finding it helpful.
Thanks a lot. Thanks everyone for your contributions. I'm learning a lot. I have to confess that often presentations of physics book tend to be a bit boring. I confess, I share this with you. But the way you present it with enthusiasm and your involvement, etc., make it very interesting to listen to such presentation. Because I tell you, in general, also in presence of Nobel Prize winners, and this was the case sometimes in the past in our library, usually, okay, a lot of respect, but it's a bit boring what they say. Yeah? It's not the case here. Mario, now it's your turn to say, how was this experience collaborating with students to write a book?
It was great. Well, first of all, I knew most of them from the course, because they are the ones who are chasing me after the course to ask questions. So in a way that, it's always nice to have students to interact with you, and not don't spend just the lecture time watching the telephone and running away, as sometimes it happens. So having good students is always something that makes you happy about teaching, right? Otherwise, teaching can be frustrating as well. And then, it was interesting also to see how you said, well, that they're very enthusiastic about the idea, and how they would self-organize in distributing the chapters to each other, having people responsible for each individual part, people responsible for doing the drawings, people responsible for the layout, organizing everything nicely using these collaborative tools on the web. So I was really impressed, to be honest. And I'm really happy that these things continued, and then finally was published. I'm very happy that the students also had this initiative for the physics tasters, that the students had this initiative of promoting the books to others. So they have been very proactive. And wow, and then you see all of them that are now continuing, all of them that are doing masters in prestigious universities. So it means that there are people who are taking seriously what they're doing with enthusiasm, and but with some joy as well. I mean, they were happy in doing that, and that was also very nice.
Okay, thanks a lot, Mario. So, Antonio, you are ready to deal with the questions, okay?
Yes.
Yes, we have 2 questions for the time being, please. 3 or comments.
So the first one, I think, which collaborative platform was used to write the book? So I think that we basically used like the very short answer. We used Overleaf, which many people who are involved in sciences already use for many things, even for instance for thesis, and but just even for writing articles. And we were able to buy an Overleaf account to have this kind of premium version of it, which enabled us to share the file and work on it simultaneously, the 7 of us. And I hope that was a good answer for that question. Then I think there's just like a comment about well done. and then there is, did online teaching impact significantly the way you structured the book and devised the material? How did you cope with that? I think that, yeah, online teaching had got quite an impact on everybody, I guess, because we're all going through weird times. 1 year ago, I don't think we would have kind of guessed that we would have seen each other through a screen or stuff like this. But I do think that the book, given that the book actually was born actually as an ebook, and hence it fits kind of well with the idea of online teaching. And we, personally, I'm trying to turn some of the solutions or problems in the book in videos for the classical mechanics course. And this doesn't exclude the fact that perhaps in a new version of the book, we might also endow it with some video material as well. Okay. Anyone wants to add anything on this? No?
Okay, the next question. The second edition of the book.
Okay, the second edition of the book. Okay.
So please.
It's quite early to think about the second edition for now, but because it's really just been published. I think that the improvements that might be implemented are correction of some typos, or adding additional problems and additional solutions, because for some solutions we just wrote bookwork and we didn't really show what was going on because they were like literally straight away. But for instance, some numerical answers might be included. And also I think that since the book is properly being used for teaching, we will be able to receive enough feedback to kind of make some changes, because I think that, you know, of course it was the first time for all of us doing like, you know, an experience like this, writing a textbook. So I think there's always some room for improvement. Otherwise, you know, we would all be Nobel Prize winners. But so I guess, you know, like the second edition, if there's gonna be a second edition, it's gonna be mainly based on the feedback we'll be receiving. Anyone wants to add anything?
Yeah, I think we had a crazy idea at one point during this summer when we were sad that we weren't working on any book, to write to make a whole series of the professor-student collaborations and maybe do one on the waves. But I don't know if that will actually ever happen, but it's a plan somewhere. I see a lot of skeptical looks, but
we, as Camilla was saying, not crazy enough to have, you know, just, you know, just ask like can we write a book with you, you know, for a whole summer, because physics, you know, for a whole year is not enough for us. So I guess, you know, there's always room for these crazy ideas to to come into play. Anyone else? No? Okay. And then I think the last question we have is, is there an electronic version for e-reader? So yes, I'm not sure how to kind of go about it. If you guys have got a better explanation of it, please just jump in what I'm gonna say. I think that you can buy an online version of it through the IOP website. We are trying to buy hardback copies as well. I wouldn't recommend personally buying a hardback copy because it costs a lot.
Yep.
And but perhaps the you know, ebook copies are less expensive than that. So yes, you can buy it through IOP. Now, some institutions have got an accreditation with IOP, hence they might have the free access of this book. So if you belong to some university, you might have free access to the book.
It's free in the sense that the institution pays, of course. It's not very cheap. That's why we don't have access, because we refuse to subscribe to the packages. And we are still negotiating with IOP the permission to purchase individually. But as you know, when the library purchases, it's a license that we purchase. So we don't pay the least price, but we pay a higher price, which is okay, it's fine, but it has to be reasonable, not outrageous, you see?
Yeah. I just wanted to add, there's a Kindle edition on Amazon which you can buy if you just search up Classical Mechanics Campanelli. It's going for £60, I think, and you can get the ebook version.
Okay, may I ask? I have a question now myself. Okay, thank you for the link. Did UCL or did you propose to UCL to finance an open access edition of this book? Now it's too late. I mean, but did this idea come to your mind? Because I know that UCL, first of all, there is a UCL Press, of course, but I think they are also available to negotiate, if the case is, with the publisher for the permission to publish a book open access. Of course, they have to cover the fees, and so there is a cost.
Actually, we did contact UCL Press. That was the first editor we contacted, actually, but they somehow were not so interested.
It's a pity.
That was really a shame, to be honest. But of course, that was the first idea. Why don't we do it with the UCL Press and make it open access? But they say they had too many textbooks already.
Yeah, I think the issue is that a lot of the big university press don't really want to publish books which are not published by students who have a PhD or people who haven't got a PhD. Mm-hmm. So because we were all undergraduate students at the time, it didn't seem very appealing, which is in reality the strength of the book. So
Indeed. And I mean, being totally incompetent, I'm guessing that this book might be better than the books written by people with much higher degree than you. But okay, it's just a personal opinion. Okay, so I'm wondering, how long did it take from the idea up to the finished book? How long did it take to write it?
We started, like, I think we had the idea in roughly, was it September?
I think it was in October because it was in the break between exams, between ICAs.
ICAs, okay, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, so it might have been like end of October, beginning of November. And
2019.
No, 2018.
Okay, I see.
18, yes. And then we basically said, okay, we'll work on it throughout the summer. We had already kind of started thinking of, you know, how to kind of go about it, what platform to use, and what not. And then we basically kind of like finished writing the, you know, like the big part September last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
we worked really hard, and we managed to do, like, write the actual full body of the text in the 3 summer months. So
yeah, because we kind of split the chapters among us, and then we also cross-checked the chapters in between us so that more people could give more feedback, and also to give some sort of homogeneity to the book. And then I think there was the editing part for Mario, and then it was published in August 2020. So from roughly 2018, it took almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years. Yes. I see. Okay. Mm-hmm. Are there any more questions or comments from the audience? May I ask an indiscreet question? If there is going to be any kind of a revenue for this book, where does it go?
Not to us.
No.
Not to you.
We got some reimbursement, but that's it.
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
It all goes to the IOP.
To IOP, fantastic.
All the rest goes to the IOP. We got some reimbursement for the work done.
Okay.
But after that, we gave them the full, copyright of the book.
I see. Okay. I see. I'm wondering. I continue to speak because you see there is no question, and I'm plenty of curiosities. So, because if I think of myself trying to convert my notes, because this is the starting point, no notes of the lessons, convert into a text. What are the main difficulties that you encountered, if there are any difficulties? I don't know, in converting notes into a text.
I think maybe the flow a bit, because notes tend to be very punchy, whilst for a text you need to kind of, I mean, it depends on the kinds of notes, because I mean, we worked on some notes that have been going around UCL for quite a while, and they had kind of been, of course, you know, adjusted by Mario in the latest version of the teaching of the course, but they were from perhaps even, you know, like the last decade, so 2010 roughly, because of course, I mean, it's also, you know, fair to say that classical mechanics doesn't really change too much over time.
No.
But I think that there were, like, you know, like, I think all the diagrams, all the formulae, and the explanations as well, because notes tend to be very kind of brief in the explanation of things, whilst in a book you want to make sure that everything is well explained. Mm-hmm. And especially in a book with kind of the objective that our book had, you had to make sure that it was a resource accessible to everyone who wanted to read it. Now, you might perhaps struggle with it if you haven't got a strong mathematical background, because the mathematically preliminary chapter is not, cannot kind of, you know, enclose all the mathematical methods courses that, you know, some people could do. But I think, you know, that was kind of one of the main struggles for, at least, you know, what I've seen. I don't know. What about you guys? What did you?
Yeah. I think the main difference between a book and, you know, lecture notes, in my opinion, notes are supposed to supplement lecture, so they're supposed to go with the lecture. He follows along with them, etc. A book is supposed to be complete on its own, so that, you know, anyone who picks it up and spends enough time reading it can understand everything that's in there. So that was the main thing. I think trying to you know, again, with the education background, trying to ensure that everyone could understand it, and you know, no matter what background you came from, as long as you know how to do simple derivation, simple differentiation, integration, etc., you would be able to, you know, follow along, and everything was a bit hard. And trying to make a book without videos, because I think it was an initial idea that IOP had, that we could make some videos along with the book, but you know, yeah, doing that was a bit tough as well.
It's another plan for version 2.
Yeah.
And talking about IOP, how was your interaction with IOP? So you did everything, and they put just the cover, or what? How was your interaction with IOP?
It's always a bit like, can you bite the hand that sort of feeds you, kind of. I think we worked really hard on a sort of format, and they had, I think the biggest struggle for us is that we had worked on a specific setup, which Sheila put in a lot of time to get looking really beautiful. And then they have their own format, so they decided to just scrap all the formatting we'd done, which was a lot of work, because then we had to go through and redo all the formatting and signal all the errors that they'd made, which is a pity. But I think other than that, we sort of gave them the book, and then they helped us with sort of picking marketing and then the cover, and yeah, but they didn't give us yeah, I don't think, guys, anything else that comes to mind?
No, I to be fair, like I think it's fair to say that we didn't receive feedback from IOP. So all the feedback was, of course, I mean, like Mario's and each other's feedback. And perhaps, I don't know, it might have been a wrong impression of mine, but I would have thought that when I don't know, I kind of like had the expectation that like we would have been given more feedback from them anyway. But I guess that, you know, it's good enough that, you know, like students are using it, so that we get as much feedback as possible on improvements for, you know, the ideal second version of it.
I think we did receive some help on like typesetting and like formatting, but they did change our original formatting and like kind of force it into their own scheme.
Well, stop me if I'm speaking too much. But I have a question: what kind of system or channel do you want to put in place? I guess you want to put in place for future feedback, because now, okay, you are still in touch with people at UCL, etc. But maybe it would be interesting, useful for you to receive feedback from users in the next years, telling you, providing you feedback about the quality of the text, how this could be improved, etc. No? Did you think about that? And how would you like to put such a system in place? Not easy, maybe, yeah?
We had an idea, which was to create a website for the book, and to kind of like have, for instance, some type of forum or some part where people could kind of send us comments about things they would like to see implemented. However, we like because the idea of the website was also to perhaps include some videos about some experiments or some
additional material
and stuff like this. That said, we kind of realized that for like, since we are all kind of studying full time, and you know, like UCL, Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial, and so forth, it was gonna be pretty hard to kind of keep on having such a close eye on it for now. But surely, you know, like I think that, you know, if we were to do a second version of the book, I think it should definitely have a website with this kind of channel of communication. I mean, for all the people here, the best I can do is to leave my email address, because I'm compiling, you know, a file with all the kind of suggestions and stuff. So I'm actually gonna put it on the screen so that if anyone is interested in reading and providing feedback, they can do it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure that if you would provide some kind of a link also to IOP, maybe they would be happy to integrate it with the web page where the ebook is, for example. So yeah.
Because they were happy about it. But that we had asked if that would have meant even to, you know, have some sort of financial support, because to do all that, we would have needed to use, you know, some good tools, because nowadays on YouTube, you can find anything that is physics related and is very well done. So it would have made no sense for us to film things with our phone cameras, let's say.
Indeed.
So we'd also asked if, like, you know, we could have support in that, and they said, no, I mean, it's up to you. If you want to do it, then you can just add that. But like, you know, the time that would have gone into that would have been a lot. So
Indeed.
we basically ended up not doing it.
Yeah. Okay, this was interesting. Questions, comments?
Somebody wrote, do you all own a copy? This one?
Yes.
Very proudly. So you got a free copy each, or?
Three free copies.
On the initial contract, it was one, but then we were like, please.
You managed.
For the parents, one.
Yeah,
one
at least for mom and dad.
Yeah, the proud.
Okay, very good, very good. Can you send me one?
Can you send me?
We have one copy. Thanks to Mario. Thank you, Mario, for the library. Yeah. Okay.
Are you going to
set
run
a book
a
signing
session?
Sorry?
Somebody asked if we're gonna like run a book signing session. Well, we can all take a marker and start signing on the screen. That's
yeah,
surely...
please sign on the screen. Yeah.
With the pandemic happening.
Signed the version that's at CERN, right? So.
Yeah. When...
It is quite sad though, because I would have liked the copy, like a signed copy with all your contributions to the people who wrote it. But I don't know when, because of COVID, the next time we'll actually all meet in person and be able to sign each other's copies will be.
Yeah. It's great to take
also
some
because
time.
if we send it around, then the books will need to self-isolate.
Of course. At every step, quarantine. Okay. Here's my copy, Tayyab. I think we have to stop this session, otherwise you'll keep getting messages. Send me a free copy, please.
But thank you so much.
It was a pleasure. Thanks, everyone. Good luck for your future. You have plenty of projects, of course, masters, etc., then PhD, then postdoc, then etc. Hoping to see you maybe one day at CERN. If you pass by, please drop it. Yeah, one day. No, not now, please. Anyway, we are closed anyway. Close to you, of course. Okay.
Thank you so much. It was great. And thank you to everybody for having joined. Thank you so much, Tullio, for having let us be your guest, and Mario for organizing everything as well. Thank you a lot. It's